What's going on, guys? I'm Tommy, and I'm coming at you with an action figure review. Today I'm going to be reviewing Hasbro The Black Series Clone Lieutenant Galle from Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith. The Black Series has done a really nice job of giving us all kinds of Revenge of the Sith releases throughout 2025, it being the 20th anniversary of that movie. One of them, and as a big Clone Trooper fan, this one really excites me, being Clone Lieutenant Galle, a named Clone Trooper who essentially wears the basic 327th Star Corps Phase 2 look as seen in Revenge of the Sith. We've got some new stuff, some new parts, some new exciting things to talk about with this release, but of course we have to talk about the release itself before we get into the figures. I did pick this up through a pre-order through Big Bad Toy Store. That's the place I go to for most of my action figure orders and pre-orders. Great service here in the United States for a smaller retailer for this kind of thing. Clone Lieutenant Galle is a mainline release for the Black Series in 2025, and he comes in the standard packaging for the line with the Black Series logo up at the top, a big plastic window showing you the figure and all his accessories. Over here you have in vertical text the character's name, as well as that he is number 3 in the Revenge of the Sith subline. Down below the window here we have the Revenge of the Sith subline in the banner color that represents it with the name of the movie. Down below that we have some logos and legalese. On this side of the box we have our mural art here. You can see the background of Felucia, one of the most visually striking planets in all of Star Wars, might I add, and he looks really cool there with his blaster in hand. We also have our character name down at the bottom. On the back of the box, we have a lot of the same information we saw on some of the other sides of the packaging, like the Black Series logo, the mural image we saw on the side of the box, blown up a bit, the character name, and then we have a bio in about 1,000 different languages. This bio reads, "Led by Clone Commander Bly and Jedi General Aayla Secura, the 327th Star Corps served the Grand Army of the Republic on worlds like Quell, Meriden, and Felucia." We reiterate here, he is number 3 in the Revenge of the Sith subline. Down below that, we have all our legalese. Guys, please don't feed this action figure to your babies. On this side of the box, we have our wraparound window, that wraparound banner, and the Black Series logo at the bottom. On the bottom of the box, even more legalese, and on the top, nothing. That about wraps it up for the packaging, so why don't we get this guy opened, and we'll check him out. Alright gang, here is Clone Lieutenant Galle out of the box. Before we take a look at him, let's of course take a look at his accessories. Now, probably the most exciting accessory for me here is this new removable helmet. You heard me right. This is a new removable helmet for clone troopers. What's so different about this helmet versus previous Black Series clone helmets is that this one is much more accurate to the look of the Revenge of the Sith clone trooper. Previously, if you've owned any clone troopers in the Black Series line with the removable helmets, there was a lot of weird amalgamation of animated look versus live action look, and I'm really glad that they've corrected a lot of those aesthetic issues with this latest clone helmet. If they're gonna stick with the removable helmets, which seems to be the direction that Hasbro's going in for the Black Series, and while I'm more of a fan of not having removable helmets and just either going swappable head or no Tamara Morrison likeness at all, I will say this is a step up and a great step in the right direction. Really interested to see how this looks on the figure. Lieutenant Galle in the movie has a standard 327th Star Corps look, so he just has the one dandelion stripe that goes down from the top of the helmet, covers the fin, and goes down here toward the chin filters. You can see, I don't know if you could tell on camera, but the printing for the visor, which is in a nice glossy black, is just a little bit droopy. It's a little bit off from the top corners. I didn't even tell until I got this thing out of the box. It's got some silver and some gray down here for the frown, and then some more silver and black for the chin filters. It's got these stripes decoed right here on the side like it's supposed to. The ear caps are painted in gray, and then you have this nice gray stripe that goes all the way to the back, and that black brow painted all the way to the back of the helmet. On this side, on the right side, it's a little bit low, but it's not super noticeable. Just little QC issues with this helmet. Overall, though, the sculpt is very, very nice. As for Galle's other accessories, this is where it gets a lot more common. So we do have, of course, his two sidearms being the twin DC-17 blaster pistols. These are identical to one another. They're just done in a dark gray plastic. No weathering or any kind of dry brushing applied to them whatsoever, but we've seen these so many times in the Black Series line by now, you should be used to this. And then of course we also have the DC-15S carbine for our clone Lieutenant Galle here. Same thing, just a dark gray plastic. Same sculpt we've seen so many times in the Black Series line, and by now, you should be used to this. Again, a great serviceable blaster for this action figure line. And now, let's take a look at our clone Lieutenant Galle. So this is on the latest clone trooper body for the Black Series. I've reviewed this clone trooper on this body several times now on the channel, so you should know what you're getting into if you've seen any of my previous reviews. Hasbro continues to go with a nice matte white for the plastic for the armor, which I tend to prefer. I know that in the prequel films they were a little bit shinier, and they do look a little shinier in the Mandalorian series and the Obi-Wan Kenobi series. However, I think this matte look is a lot nicer. In the animation, the clones are much more matte, and I feel like it just gives off more of a unique vibe in comparison to your standard Imperial Stormtrooper. As with most clones in the Black Series, we have a painted Tamara Morrison likeness here. He is done with the standard black hairstyle here, which is painted in black. No weathering or dark wash applied to that. He has his eyebrows painted. The eyes are painted very nicely as well, and then he has the lips have a little bit of paint on them too. And this is a great likeness. It looks like a young Tamara Morrison, and especially because we're going to end up having this character with helmet on the shelf, I don't think it really even matters if it looked bad, but it's a good plus that it actually does look like a young Tamara Morrison. So a part of the figure that is actually connected to him, you would have to remove it here at this little clip, which you can see the bandolier does go up here with these extra ammo pouches that are done in white and brown. We have our Revenge of the Sith style pauldron. This looks great. It's got that brown on the front piece here, and then on the left shoulder, it's got all the brown detail there as well, with all of the accurate shaping to Revenge of the Sith. I think this is a really nice piece. Hard to pinpoint if this is the exact same one that came with Commander Bly back in the day, but regardless, I would say this is a great piece to add to this figure, and I hope to see it on more Clone Trooper releases going forward. This seems to be connected just down here at the belt pouch here, so this technically could come off his head if you wanted it to. However, it is loosely applied, which actually will help us with articulation on this figure. With Lieutenant Galle being identical to the standard 327th Clone Trooper, you will see that his markings are just the basic 327th clone markings. So on the clean armor here, we have all of this weathered yellow paint striping. Now, this is just a personal thing for me. If they're gonna weather the striping, I think they should weather the armor itself as well. And if they're not gonna weather the armor itself, I think we should just get clean paint lines all throughout. So I don't know, just me personally, I'm not a fan of the weathered paint applications for the unit markings when there's no application for that same look on the actual armor. You can see though, it's just one continuous stripe that goes from the shoulder armor to the bicep armor, nothing on the elbow armor, and then it goes down to the gauntlets and then the hand armor here. You can see that the shoulder armor is done on an O-ring system, and that works really well to give the shoulder more range of movement. You can see his comm pad is sculpted on that right gauntlet there, and he does actually have trigger fingers for both hands, which is awesome. And as I'm looking at this guy, wait a minute, new update alert. This is the first Black Series Clone Trooper that I know of that has vertical hinges on both the right and left hand. Previously, even though this latest Clone Trooper had a trigger finger in that left hand, he had a horizontal hinge. This is the first I've even heard anybody talk about this or mention this, is that vertical hinge added to that left hand there. That is a huge deal, and I actually really strongly prefer that over the horizontal hinge, because if I'm going to have him holding his blaster pistols, there's so much more you can get out of having him with the vertical hinges there. That is an awesome update. The carapace or torso armor is its own soft plastic overlay, which covers up the torso there, of course, and then the belt is its own overlay. You can see the one stripe that goes down the front of the torso, and then the two stripes on the front of the belt. No paint on the back of the figure, it looks like. We have just a plain khaki colored comma, which was pretty typical for a lot of clone troopers that we see in Revenge of the Sith. A lot of them with commas just had one color, no crazy details or things like we see on the ARC troopers in the Clone Wars animated show. You can see the clip on the front is painted in kind of like a gray color, and then there is that same khaki color for these little cords that lead down to what it would actually be the comma, rather than the very malleable pouches here for the DC-17 blaster pistols. This plastic is so thin and so malleable, I actually feel like it's gonna snap, but it's just that easy to move around, and that is not something I'm going to complain about. You can see the little elastic strap is tied here on the front of the belt. Doesn't take away too much from the aesthetic of the figure, but if you really wanted to, you could stretch the plastic of the belt forward here and then push all of this up under the belt to improve that aesthetic look. And then of course it gets pretty basic down at the legs here. Just the basic white armor over the black body glove here. You have the dandelion stripes on the fronts of the knee armor here, which thing I really love about the clones is its own individual piece that you can move all around as you bend the knees. We'll talk about that when we cover articulation, but then here as well we do have over the straps of the boots, we have that same dandelion color. So overall, I mean, they really did a good job of knocking out the look of this particular unit, which is, I know, very much wanted in the Black Series. I think Commander Bly came out in like 2019, and I know that people have been wanting his troopers to go with him ever since then. So taking a look at Lieutenant Gale's articulation, so he does have a barbell jointed neck, barbell joint that goes up into the head, and another ball joint at the base of the neck. So we'll be able to get all kinds of range out of this here. You can see he can look down a decent amount, and he can also look up just a little bit depending on how you move the neck there. You can get some decent tilt out of that as well, and some right and some left. I should note the pauldron does not hinder the movement of the head whatsoever. That's a great thing to see. And then at the shoulders we have butterfly joints that are cleverly hidden underneath the overlay of the carapace. You can see even with the carapace overlay, with the pauldron, with the shoulder armor, that butterfly joint still gets plenty of range, especially on that bulkier side of the pauldron, so that's always good. The O-ring system does a great job of moving itself out of the way, and you can see even with the pauldron, you can still get that shoulder up past the 90-degree mark, which is awesome. And then of course he does have the ability to do a 360-degree swivel. With the shoulder armor, definitely just be wary that you should keep the armor moving with it if you're doing more than just forward and back 90 degrees, because those O-rings can get caught in that articulation system there. This guy does also have a bicep swivel, which is an awesome added piece of articulation, as well as a deep cut single jointed hinge at the elbow. That's going to get you to a little past that 90-degree mark, which is awesome. And then there is also a swivel at the top of that elbow there. And then of course down here at the wrists, like I mentioned when we were taking our first look at the figure, we have the swivel with the hinge at the vertical hinge on the right wrist, and then same thing on that left wrist there. Again, really excited to see that. Then of course we have our ball joint at the midsection here, which gives you some really nice range, and especially seeing how the overlay for the carapace and the pauldron move themselves out of the way. That's awesome. We have ball joints at the hips, and you can see that the soft goods comma and the ammo pouches get themselves out of the way as well, which is awesome. We love to see that. There is a cut for a thigh swivel that is cleverly hidden underneath the thigh armor, giving you some extra range, which also really helps if you want to bring the legs up on this trooper. If you have them forward like this, the way that the thigh armor is sculpted, it's not going to really let you get very far up, so twisting that thigh armor really helps alleviate that. Then we have deep cut single jointed knees here, which can get you to about that 90-degree mark. And as you can see, those loose knee armor plates really help elevate the look of the figure so that they're not stuck at the top and not actually protecting the character's knee. And then of course we have our Hasbro classic, the forward facing pin for rocker, with a hinge at the front and a hinge at the back for that ankle articulation. So overall, it's great articulation. We're pretty used to it by now in the Black Series. Really excited about this added vertical hinge on that left hand. That is really, really a nice touch. So this is the moment of truth with our removable helmet here. How does this look on the figure? Because that's our thing, is, you know, it tends to look a little bobbleheady when it is on the figure. So when it's pushed all the way down, it does actually cover his chin, which is good. He doesn't really have much of a neck. That is the only thing. However, he does also have a pauldron on, so that's an added piece of plastic that we would have to remember is there, an extra layer. Just because I'm curious to see how this helmet would look on a clone trooper with no pauldron, I have brought out the Phase 2 clone trooper from the 2-pack that came with the battle droid. It was a Hasbro Pulse exclusive, and this is a great side-by-side as well to show you how the newer helmet really improves upon the theatrical look that the Black Series should be achieving in this line. The helmet just looks so much smaller, so much narrower, and all the features are not this weird amalgamation of Clone Wars proportions and live action proportions. We just get a much more true look to the Revenge of the Sith movie. And now putting this helmet on this figure, you can see that it does still protect the chin, and he doesn't have much of a neck, but you can at least see that neck from the front there. And I will say, this is going to be a huge improvement for Black Series clone troopers going forward. I'm really excited to see this helmet in future releases. releases. But back to Galle here. So you can lift the helmet up, is just going to expose his chin out from underneath the bottom of the helmet. So I just like to have that mashed down as much as possible so that we don't have to look at that chin peeking out underneath the helmet there. Of course, let's get him with his blaster pistols in hand. I am probably going to pose him with the DC-15S on the shelf, so we'll get those in hand here. Very nice firm grip on the right hand, passes the shake test, and then we will check the same for our left hand here. This also being a trigger finger is a great improvement as well. A lot of older Clone Trooper releases did not have the trigger finger on the left hand, but then clones would come with 2 blaster pistols, and it would kind of just like ruin that aesthetic. Here's a great first action pose for Galle here in a mid-stride using both those blaster pistols. I love the look of this figure. Hasbro just continues to improve on the looks of their Black Series Clone Troopers. And then of course there is weapon storage for both of our DC-17 blaster pistols in these holsters here. Those are nice. They do pass the shake test, but they are in there a little loose, so I wouldn't be surprised if while you're posing the figure around, or God forbid he takes a shelf dive, I think you might have an issue with these falling out of the holsters. And then of course let's get him posed up with the DC-15S in hand here. Here's Galle in a really nice mid-stride pose. Once again, this time getting ready to walk up just as he receives the order to take out his Jedi General. And here's Galle as he's seen executing the fateful order on Master Sakura. And of course here's Lieutenant Galle with, on the left here, his Jedi General Aayla Secura, and on the right we have the previous released Clone Commander Bly. I think that the colors on Galle to Bly are just a little bit different. I think that Bly's dandelion color is just a little bit of a different shade than what we see on Galle, but side by side they still look great together. Obviously Bly having a lot more weathering than Galle, which again, I prefer we just go one way or the other with that. But as far as the removable helmet look goes, I would say if they're gonna stick to removable helmets, as much as I'd prefer swappable heads, I think that this is the closest we're ever gonna get to a true looking Revenge of the Sith style helmet. But with that, guys, that's gonna wrap it up for this review. This is probably one of the best Clone Troopers Hasbro has ever done for the Black Series line. I really like this guy. I love that they continue to innovate on these figures as well with the new helmet, which I'm a huge fan of. Huge improvement over the previous removable helmet, and also new things like giving that left hand that vertical hinge. I love seeing details like that, and they just continue to excel in improving the Black Series Clone Trooper. These clones are fun to pose around. They look good on the shelf. I really think they're in a great direction with these Clone Troopers. But with that, guys, I hope you enjoyed this review. If you did and you're not yet subscribed, subscribe to Blitz Transmissions. I've got awesome Star Wars content coming out all the time. If you're an ARC Trooper in my Patreon, you would have seen this review early. If you'd like access to early content, monthly giveaways, and other awesome benefits, the link to my Patreon is in the description below. Become an ARC Trooper for just $4.99 a month. If you're a fan of the reviews I do here on YouTube, or you'd like to support the YouTube channel more directly, you could also check out my YouTube channel membership, Rancor Battalion, for just 99 cents a month. It gives you access to all my reviews early, exclusive badges and priority replies in my comments section, and you get to vote on what I review next for the channel. If you'd like some Blitz Transmissions swag, you can head over to the Blitz Transmissions Armory over on Printify. Link to that is in the description below, as well as links to my Discord and all my social media. Guys, I hope you enjoyed this review. I'll catch you for the next one, and may the Force be with you.
Breaking off. All units, fire at will. 1-2, pick your targets. Too many, Captain. Watch your stabilizer, Gold 6. Anybody cover me. I got 2 vultures on my tail. You've got to hold them here. Watch your left. I can't shake them. I'm hit. Where's our reinforcement?